Hi, I'm Kathy Burlow, the founder and president of PDX Veg, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to Kris Eisenman's cooking demo on how to use vegan eggs in wholesome, flavorful breakfasts. And as you probably know, now more than ever is a perfect time to switch to vegan eggs. And Kris, who's a professionally trained chef, is going to show us how to use vegan eggs in scrambles, breakfasts, burritos, breakfast sandwiches, omelets, and French toast. And this demo is going to give you the tools and inspiration to start your day deliciously every day of the week.
Thanks, Kathy. Welcome, everyone. So as Kathy said, we're going to do lots of different breakfast ideas. And a lot of this I do as food prep, usually on a Saturday or a Sunday in a little larger volume. And then we have whatever it is for the week. So on work days, we don't have to think a lot. We just have something nutritious and delicious so we can start our day off right. So let me get started here. I'm going to start my pan and get them warmed up a little. So I'm using cast iron, and with cast iron, you actually want to let the heat go into the iron and warm it up. The iron expands, and like think of it as having little holes, and when it expands, those all fill out and they help make things less sticky. And so once they get some heat on them, and I'm cheating a little, I'm gonna do this a little faster than I normally would let them come up a little better in heat. I'm going to put a couple teaspoons of oil in both these pans, which I'm going to use to make some of the vegetables that we're going to use today in the various dishes. So pretty much every week I'll do onions, caramelized onions, which I'll do today. And usually some kind of peppers, because we love peppers and we love spicy food. So today I have a combo of jalapenos and bell peppers. Bell peppers are sweet, have no spice, but we like a little spice added too. You can use whatever you want. A lot of times I'll do mushrooms. My husband's not a huge fan of mushrooms, but I am. And whatever I grabbed at the farmer's market, I'll throw in there, or whatever came in my CSA. So I'm letting those pans heat up a little. I'm going to let this pan, where I'm going to put the peppers, heat up a lot and get pretty hot, because on the peppers, I want to add a little color. I want them to get a little, not charred, but brown. Color is flavor. So the onions, I'm going to caramelize. They're going to get nice and brown over quite a bit of time while we're talking here. And that'll add lots of flavor, a lot of savory notes as well as some sweet notes. So I'm just going to put these peppers in here, onions, and onions take a long time to caramelize. Any recipe you read will say, they'll caramelize in a few minutes. No, they always take 10 to even 20 minutes to really caramelize. And I'm looking for my salt. Where's my salt? There it is. Sorry, I go off camera there. So I'm going to put some salt on I keep saying peppers, the onions. I was telling Kathy before we started, the peppers have been staring me in the face and they look so good. I wanted to reach over and eat one. So I put a little salt on there, and then I'm just going to give them a stir so that salt gets everywhere. And then I'm going to leave them alone, like I said, to get some color on them. I'm going to let this burner get a little hotter. When you put the peppers in the cast iron, or if you're using nonstick, that's fine too. You actually let the oil get pretty warm, and that's going to seal any remaining, those holes I talked about. That'll seal them. And when you put the peppers in, you want that sizzle. I'm not sure if that's coming through my mic, but you want to hear some sizzle. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a little salt. It looks probably like a lot on camera, but I'm doing probably not even a half a teaspoon of salt on all these peppers. And so I prepare these over the weekend usually, and I usually do a double batch, and we use these for all sorts of recipes all week long. I'm just going to give that a stir. And like I said, the onions will take a long time to caramelize. These peppers, I'm just trying to get some color on them and to get them cooked a little so they're not super crunchy. You want them cooked through. So I'm going to leave that. And while I let these work, I'm going to show you how I prepare my tofu. We have 2 brands today. This one is from local Fred Meyer's Simple Truth Organic Tofu. And I'm just going to bring this out. And I always make 2 things on the weekends. I make a scramble, which I'll show you with some of this stuff. And then I also make patties. And the patties I use for egg sandwiches. So like an English muffin sandwich, like a Egg McMuffin, if I want to use a brand. And I use this little ring to cut them. So I just push down, and now I have a little round piece of tofu. And I put it on its side, and I like a pretty thick cut on my tofu because I like it to be kind of soft still, kind of like egg would have been on an English muffin sandwich. So I'm doing about over a 1/2 inch, but not quite 3/4 inch on my cut there. And I'm just going to put this aside. I'll come back to it. I'm just putting it on a cookie sheet. And where's my bowl? So I'll take the rest of the tofu and I'm just going to crumble it into my bowl. And that's mostly what I do. But if I want to make my tofu look a little more like scrambled eggs, I will show you how I do that. So this is my favorite brand of tofu. It is local. It's here in Portland. They're also the oldest tofu manufacturer in the United States. It's, how do they say? I think they say ote. And if you live in Portland, you can go to the factory. They moved it recently. Probably says where it is here. But you can look up, just Google ote. And you can go to the factory and bring your own containers. And so you don't have these plastic tubs which aren't recyclable in the Portland area. So I like to do that when I have the time. So I'm just going to take this block of tofu out. And you want to get the water out of your tofu. I'm going to do that in the microwave. It's super fast way of doing it. But the traditional way of doing it that I've mostly used over the years is by, sorry, I can't stir and puff, is through a tofu press. And that can be a contraption you can buy. You can buy them anywhere, really, these days. And, or you can just put like this cast iron on top of this and some paper towels and the water will drain out. If you take the tofu and put it straight in the frying pan, a lot of water is going to be released. I'll show you that when I microwave it. So that water just isn't appealing. So you want to take some water out of it. And that's what I'm going to do next.
So you're using 2 different kinds of tofu for different purposes. Like the patties, you're using the Fred Meyer one, and you're using the Oda tofu for different.
Yeah, I'm using firm. They're all similar. I think ote does taste better than the commercially prepared ones, probably because it's smaller batches. And the commercial. The ote also uses, I think it's magnesium to curdle the curds of tofu. And the commercial ones use calcium. Actually would love if ote used calcium because of the extra calcium we can always use as vegans. But I think maybe the way they do it tastes better because I love the taste of ote. And I hope I'm saying their name right. I'm just giving these both a little stir. You can see a little color is starting on both. I'm getting some little black marks on, or brown really, marks on the peppers. And the onions are starting to get some brown on them. Just a very little bit, you can see that. So I was saying, sometimes I like to make my tofu even look a little more like real eggs. And I learned this trick from the gentle chef, Sky Michael. He taught me to do really little like slices like this. And the skinnier the ribbons, the more it kind of emulates the ribbons of egg that you get when you scramble an egg. So you can do that if you want it a little fancier. Another quicker way of doing that is you can use your trusty vegetable peeler, and you can actually just vegetable peel the ribbons as well. So I'm just kind of creating these ribbons of our tofu or egg. I'm just going to throw those in there. I'll do a few more. Like I said, I mostly just crumble it. But if I'm trying to get fancy for something, I would do the ribbons. So pick your way. So I'm just going to finish crumbling this, and then I'm going to go put the whole bowl in the microwave for 3 minutes. And if you have any questions while I do that, this would be a great time to pop them in chat. Anything about tofu you want to know, and I can answer those while it's microwaving. I'll be right back. And that was 3 minutes. I set that to go. Okay, and I'm going to stir this a little more. I can tell my peppers are getting close. They have some nice color on them, but they're still pretty firm. They're not like bendy. I want them to be bendy so they're cooked all the way through. I'm going to let those cook a little more, but you can definitely see some color on them right now. And the onions, like I said, they take a lot longer. If you want to speed up your onions, one trick is if you put a lid on the pan, the water will get released faster and they caramelize a little faster. But I don't mind waiting. I love the smell too. So I just do them this way. You can see the onions are starting to get color, but I'm going to put quite a bit of color on those. And these peppers, and Glenn, keep an eye out if I smoke too much. We usually have the fan running, but we didn't want it to make a lot of noise. So hopefully I don't set off the smoke detectors. I'm just giving these a couple. Now, tofu got a bad rap a few years ago. It might be like 10 or 15 now. And a lot of people thought it wasn't a healthy alternative or even a healthy food to eat. And that has been proven wrong. It's healthy for everybody. It's especially good for women in perimenopause or menopause. It helps people get through that transition in life. It can be eaten. Always talk to your oncologist, but even people who have had breast cancer or other cancers can eat it. There's no concern. The reason they thought it was a concern is the phytoestrogens in soy looked a lot like estrogen in our body. And so they thought maybe that would fuel estrogen receptive cancers. But through a lot of research, they found that doesn't happen. And in fact, the phytoestrogens attach to where estrogen will attach, and it might have a protective mechanism for us. And that might be why it's so good for people going through perimenopause and menopause. So eat tofu, eat soy. It's awesome for us. You really can't overdo it. You'll be full way before you get to any concerning amount of tofu. So I turned off the heat on the peppers. I'm just going to leave them in the pan to continue to caramelize a little. And I'll focus on my onions here for a few minutes. They're getting closer, but I'm still going to let them get pretty dark. I like my onions with even like little black bits in them. I like a lot of color on my onions. My microwave, boy, my word search today is not on. My microwave just beeped, so I'm going to go grab the tofu and show you that. So there's a lot of water. It's hard to see, but there's quite a bit of water in the bottom of this bowl now. Hopefully you can see that a little bit. So what I'm going to do next is strain this. I'm just going to put it through a little strainer and I'll be right back. There we go. And I'll just let this sit for a little while and the water will continue straining out of it, and it'll be all ready for me to put in my frying pan when I'm ready. So I'm just going to put this aside. And while I let that sit there and let my onions continue to cook, I'm going to put what I call a tofu rub, because I'm going to use it on my circles, my rounds that I made of tofu. But it's a seasoning that I use in my tofu scramble. And everybody has a different combo of spices that they use. And
go ahead, Kathy. There's somebody wanting to know what setting you used when you microwave the tofu.
Oh, just high, 3 minutes at high.
Okay, great, thanks.
And it seems like that's the right amount, whether I use one package or like today I've used two, just because I wanted to show you the rounds, and then have quite a bit left over. So I've usually volume makes a difference on a microwave, but I always do 3 minutes, one package or two, and it seems to work great.
Perfect, thanks.
So let's start our rub, and this is my base rub. And I usually make this in pretty big volume. And what goes in it are a bunch of little things. And I'll say them as I put them in the bowl. So this first one I happened to pick up was onion powder. Onion powder and garlic powder are really key in a vegan kitchen. I think since we don't use many processed foods, we use more whole foods usually. I think this gives it kind of a processed kind of flavor almost. It just adds these subtle notes to the background that make it seem more like one of those processed foods that we might have ate in the past. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of onion powder, a tablespoon of garlic powder. I'm sorry, teaspoon. I said tablespoon. It's a teaspoon. A tablespoon of nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is another vegan thing. We put it on everything. Popcorn, we put it in cream sauces, we put it in our eggs. It adds a umami, or that sixth flavor, and just gives a unctuousness or a savory note to things. So I'm going to put a tablespoon, maybe a little more there. Turmeric. Turmeric is super healthy. It's an antioxidant, so it's great to put in everything. And it also gives things yellow color. So it'll make my scramble look a little more like scrambled eggs, fool my brain. And then the final spice I have here is black salt. And I'll show you the black salt in a minute. I'm just gonna mix this up. I'm just stirring, nothing fancy there. It just all kind of just make it all go together into one color, so I know it's all mixed well. And if there's any lumps in anything, I kind of push them down with my spoon. So black salt is the vegan kind of trick to make things eggy. And this one in my hand right now is from Burlap and Barrel, which is one of my favorite spice companies. Used to be fairly small, but they're getting big. Them and Penzeys are my two spice go-tos. Oh, and Frontier a little. They're local, so I like that. So Burlap and Barrel has this black mineral salt, and you can see it's from India. And what this is a salt that they scorch. And they scorch it by bringing it to a super high temperature in a kiln. And it actually melts the salt and then burns it, which causes a sulfur type odor and taste in the salt. Here's a brand that's you don't have to order online. So Barrel and Burlap, for me, I have to order online. This brand I find everywhere. They have it at Whole Foods. They have it at some of the larger supermarkets. In Portland, we have New Seasons. They have it. And so this brand you might find easier. This brand I also find at like H Mart or 99 Ranch, the Asian stores. So it's, again, from India. It's a little pinker, and I use that today in this recipe, but they taste the same.
What's the brand of the second one?
It's Rainy, R-A-N-I.
Okay.
There's a huge Indian grocery store in Hillsboro that has this so inexpensively. I bet this was close to $10. I mean, it'll last me like a year and a half, but still, it's spendy. This was probably $2.95 at the Indian grocery store. So much less expensive. I personally do love the flavor of the burlap and barrel. It's slightly different and less aggressive. And especially my cameraman husband doesn't love black salt, but I do like it. So I feel like the burlap and barrel is kind of our compromise. I'm gonna get my onions stirred here, and they are done. So I'm going to turn them off. And actually, they got a little away from me and they got a little dark. I usually don't go this dark, and I'm going to turn on the fan, Glenn. I don't want our smoke detector just for a second. We'll get this off for just 1 second because I wasn't watching what I was doing, but they'll be fine. The black actually is going to add, it won't taste charred with onions. It'll taste sweet. Onions are funny that way. So I have that turned off, and I think I avoided. I'm just getting some of the fan off, and we'll turn that off again. There we go. Didn't want the smoke detector to go off. So black salt, key for vegan egginess, and just, again, it smells like eggs. Like if you made a hard-boiled egg, that's what this smells like. It smells like hard-boiled eggs. And I add it near the end of the cooking process, except in these patties, you'll see I added at the beginning. The patties are only cooked at 350. And so some of the egginess will bake out, kind of like vanilla extract when you add it to baked goods. It's more pungent at the beginning and it bakes out a little bit. Black salt will do that. So if you want, you can always sprinkle a little black salt, just like you would use regular salt, on the item at the end, and it will taste extra eggy. So if that's a concern or a desire of yours. So I'm going to get these patties in the oven. And so here's those 2 little egg patties that I used before. And what I do before I put them in the oven is I just put a little of this rub on both sides. So I put that side, and you don't have to be perfect. I just put a little on both sides like that. And then what I do is, and I can smell the eggy. I use my fingers. If I was having guests, I would probably use a spoon, but since I'm in a hurry and no guests, I use my fingers. So there we go. That's all you have to do for these egg patties. I am going to put these in an oven at 350, and we'll come back to them in a little while. Okay, let's finish up our scramble. Now I'm going to take some of these onions out to use in some other dishes. Lost my tongs. So I am just going to take about half of them out. I'm going to eat one of the real black parts because they're my favorite. And then all I have to do is dump the tofu in. Oops. There we go. And I'll put some of my peppers in here as well. Probably about half. And I also have some potatoes. You know what? I'm going to put the potatoes in the omelet, I think. I'm going to hold those back. Now, normally I'd add some other vegetables to this. Whatever's fresh at the farmer's market is what I tend to add. Always onions and peppers for us because we love them. And I think they give a nice base for whatever other vegetables you have. I know when I was sending Kathy pictures for this demo, I had a lot of asparagus at the time because that was in season earlier this spring. Last weekend, I put some yellow squash in this. That worked out really well. Oh, that was 2 weekends ago because last weekend I put Swiss chard in it because we got a lot of Swiss chard last week. The other thing I always put is some kind of green. So I have spinach today. Like I said, last week it was Swiss chard. Sometimes I'll do those super greens. I forget what brand that is, but you can get them at all the grocery stores. So I put this in and let that wilt down. So I'll just keep stirring it a bit. Oh, I turned off the burner, I forgot. You could tell that pan was really hot. It was still hot with the burner down. So I'm just going to let this go in there. And again, Kathy, if there are any questions you have or anybody else has, interrupt me at any time.
Will do.
Okay. So I'm kind of trying to not hide, but get the spinach to touch the bottom of the pan because I want it to wilt. And when that's wilted and my tofu is heated through, we will add the spice and be done with our scramble. So it's super easy to make tofu scrambles. And like I said, there's so many different variations. Wow, I am messy today. So whatever you like, you can put in this. You might want to do like a Greek flavor profile, or if I had fresh basil, I would do an Italian flavor profile. Today, I think I'm going to put a little curry spice, black salt. Indian, so I'm thinking Indian. I'll put a little curry spice in and it'll have a curry flavor. So whatever flavor you want, you can make. And so it never really gets boring because every week it's a little different. So we usually eat tofu scramble on the weekend because I'm preparing the tofu eggs for the rest of the week. And then I'll take some of this scramble and I'll put it in burritos to make burritos. And those can either be frozen or put in the refrigerator. Sometimes I'll make a big batch and I'll freeze a bunch of burritos. So we have them for, especially if I'm traveling, my husband can pull them out of the the freezer and pop them in the microwave or the oven to have breakfast. Super easy breakfast. Okay, so now we're going to add our spices. And I add usually about a tablespoon of that rub mix. So I'm just going to put that over the top. So it was about half my mix there. And I mentioned curry. This is again a burlap and barrel. I use them for about 5 spices, probably. My 5 most common. I use them for curry. Thyme, their thyme is so fragrant. I love their thyme. Smoked paprika and cumin are my big ones, plus the black salt. So I do order probably once every year and a half. And their spices are so fresh that a year and a half is fine. I get the cumin as whole seeds, so that lasts a really long time. Their mountain cumin is one of my favorites. So I'm just going to put a bunch of this. Again, we like spicy food, so I put about a tablespoon of curry in there. You could just put a teaspoon if you just want a little flavor. That's another thing. You cook at home, you make it yours. Whatever way, whatever things you like, you can put in here. And now I'm just going to move this around. Let those spices get toasted on the bottom of the pan. And then this will be done. And you can see it's the turmeric as well as the curry are both adding a lot of yellow to this dish. So it starts looking like scrambled eggs. And again, if I did more of the ribbons and less of the chunks, it would look even more eggy. And we eat first with our eyes. So having it look like something you're trying to simulate, it's not going to taste exactly like it, but it's going to be savory and delicious, and it's super healthy. So we are done. That is done. I'm not going to plate this just for time today. I'm just going to leave it in the pan, and I will make my burritos with it later and or plate some up for lunch later on. Okay, so I'm going to put this pan over on the side. It is very hot from me not watching it very carefully before. And I'll move this over here as well. And we'll use those later, the peppers. And I am going to get a non-stick frying pan for our next recipe. Any questions so far?
I guess I have one. Is there anything that you wouldn't, that from experience you found doesn't work for the scrambles that you wouldn't add?
Well, I mentioned I used yellow squash the other day. Oh, that was this week. I cannot even keep track. With something like squash, like summer squash, you really have to cook it ahead of time to get the water out of it. So I would avoid vegetables that create a lot of water.
Okay.
If I was using frozen spinach, I would cook it and then make sure it drained a little while in a strainer so that water comes out of it. You don't want to add a lot of water. It's just not very appealing.
That makes sense.
So anything that's going to create a lot of water is what I would avoid. Okay. Otherwise, black beans and Southwest spice works really good. Corn, black beans, Southwest spice. Really, any vegetable that you like can work. It's endless. So, like I said, we do a different one every week. Okay, well, now I am going to show you how to make an omelet. So tofu, there are some recipes out there to make an omelet with tofu, but it tends to have a consistency to it that's not super smooth like an omelet would be. So I am going to show you a replacement for this product. So this is just egg, and this cooks like a normal egg. Tastes pretty good. I usually add black salt to it, make it a little more eggy at the end when I'm cooking it. I like this product if I'm in a rush and don't want to make this product from scratch, which is what I'm going to show you. I love this product. If I want to bake something right now, I can just take a quarter cup of this, replaces an egg in a recipe. You never want to use more than replace more than 2 eggs using just egg. Because if you do, when there's 3 eggs or more in a recipe, they're doing more than what just egg can replace. They're adding lift to the baked good, and just egg and the replacer I'm going to show you don't add lift. So 2 eggs, if the recipe calls for 2 eggs, you're good to go. You can also use it for quiche. Now quiche obviously is way more eggs. It's probably 8 usually a recipe. And it works fine for that. I make quiche and strata, which is like a layered bread savory pudding. I make it once a year at Christmas, and you can use it for that too. So let me show you how you make that. The recipe is on the website that Kathy had a link to on the registration. The first thing we use, and can you get this on this camera? These are mung beans, M-O-O-N-G. I buy them by bulk at New Seasons. I believe Winco has them too. My Winco is just a little ways away. So I buy them at New Seasons. A little more spendy there, but literally I'm making a double batch today. And this is probably 50 cents worth of mung beans. Oh, I forgot to say this product, at least like on sale, I see it maybe $6, but it's usually $7.99 or $8.99.
And it's mung bean based too, isn't it?
Yeah, yep. It's basically what I'm showing you. It has pretty much what this has, except for the things that keep it as a preservative and some thickeners. So mine doesn't have the commercial thickeners that they use. And you don't need them. You'll see. It thickens just fine. So let me get a spatula, change around some things here. Here we go. And I'm going to put, I soaked these mung beans overnight. When you get them from the bulk or you buy them, super cheap at the Indian grocery store too. I can't even imagine how much cheaper it would be there. But that's all the way in Hillsboro, which is a ride for me, so I don't go there very often. But these come out, they're like little pebbles. They're super hard. So even with this high-speed blender, I just don't recommend not soaking them. So I always soak them. And they double in volume. I'm using 2 cups. I'm doubling all the recipes. I just realized I didn't get soy milk. Would you grab me soy milk, Glenn? So I let these soak overnight. I put them in, I don't know, maybe 9 last night when we got home. And so, any 4 hours will do it. But I usually just put them in the day before I want to cook something and make this recipe, and that works out fine. Okay, So that's our first ingredient, are the mung beans. Thank you. And my soy milk just appeared. When I use soy milk for my recipes, I love either Trader Joe's because, can you get the ingredients there? The ingredients are just soybeans and water. That's what I want you to look for. You don't need all those added things for preservative and all that stuff, or gel and gum, which I have no problem with, but it's not necessary. So I look for the ones that just say soy and water. This one at Trader Joe's is awesome. West
soy.
Yeah, is it West soy? Yeah, the blue. It's a blue New Marketing blue, like a navy blue carton, is another good one. I'm just kind of swirling it around because it does tend to settle. Okay, so we put our mung beans in there, and I'm trying to remember all the little things I have to put in this one. So I'm going to my recipe that Kathy put in so I don't forget anything. Let's see what I put in this one. Okay, so I'm doubling the recipe on Kathy's website, so I need 2 cups of soy milk. Oh, the most important thing when you're using soy milk in recipes, I made this mistake as a new vegan. I got soy milk because someone said it's the closest to like cow's milk in taste and use. It thickens like cow's milk will if you add an acid like lemon, so you can make buttermilk with it. But I didn't get the unsweetened. I was like, this is awful. It's all sweet. Cow's milk isn't this sweet. I hated it. And then I realized I made a fatal mistake. So you want the unsweetened soy milk. And I would normally use a liquid measure, but I don't have one on my counter. So I'm just using a cup. And again, I'm doing double the amount. And if you can see, sometimes people will use these aseptic packages and they'll go like this and you'll get splash. You actually want to do it backwards like this. And that allows air to go in, and so you don't get that splash back. One, let's hope I make a second one. It's going to be close. Close enough. If I need to add a little water or more milk, I'll get it. There we go. So 2 cups of milk. And if you don't have soy milk, as long as it's not sweetened, you could use oat or I wouldn't use coconut because it has a pronounced flavor, but oat and almond doesn't have a lot of protein. I like soy because it has protein. And we always want to be layering protein on all our foods if possible, especially as we age. It's really important to get lots of protein in our diet. So what the heck, I'll put it in the milk too. Okay, the next thing is we need a little oil. I'm using a avocado oil, but you could use olive oil, preferably not a real aggressive olive oil that has a lot of flavor. You want it to be fairly neutral. And I'm going to put 4 tablespoons, which is a 1/4 cup, grabbing a cup, which I forgot to put out. Somewhere in here, there's a half. Or use a half. Don't have to be exact. I'm using, so again, a 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons. And I'm eyeing it in a 1/2 cup. So that's good enough. And that'll help this get a little browner, and it just gives a little more mouthfeel. If you could leave out the oil, it might not be quite as creamy. So I use it. I don't use a lot of oil in my normal cooking. So when I need to use a little, again, this probably make, I don't know, 8 or 9 omelets, like a huge amount of food. I'm going to use this and have some frozen. So it's not a lot of oil. So I don't mind using it. And then we're going to put spices in. And so I have more black salt. And again, the recipe, I'm doubling everything. So that's probably a little more than the 1/4 teaspoon that the recipe calls for. And it calls for salt too. I probably will just leave that out. We don't use a lot of salt. We have baking powder, not soda, powder. The baking powder works both when we heat something and just through just natural process when it hits acids in the food. So it's a really great leavener. It's going to make this not dense, but a little more fluffy, almost more pancakey. I'm going to put onion and garlic powdered because, again, it gives kind of that processed taste. And then I have a little turmeric and a bunch of nutritional yeast, which is giving kind of a, again, a savoriness to the recipe. And I think that's it. Yep. I just looked it over to make sure. I'm going to put the cover on and we're going to blend this so that the beans get completely smooth. And it should be the consistency of pancake batter. I'm not going to talk while the blender's running because it's so noisy. So I'll just be a minute. There we go. So it looks a lot like pancake batter, like a thin pancake batter. I'm going to check on my tofu patties and I will be right back. I'm flipping them because I like to get a little bit of color, and they kind of dry out a little. I'll show you when I take these out. And so I like to flip them so they're evenly dry on the outside, but nice and soft, like an egg would be on the inside. So now I'm going to start my pan, and we'll put this on the center burner so you can see it when I get to that point. And again, just like the iron pan, in this ceramic pan, this is a ceramic nonstick pan. I could do this in the iron pan, which has been well seasoned, which is this one, is my best iron pan. But I knew the scramble was going to be in it, so I'm going to use nonstick instead. And this one happens to have this little pattern that disappears when it comes to temperature. So I'll let that come to temperature for a minute. And then we will try a little of our just egg replacement to make our omelet. So any other questions from you or anybody, Kathy?
Not right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just checking, how am I doing for time? I don't have a clock right in front of me. Fatal
Like
flaw.
it's 1:45 now.
Perfect. Okay, we're doing good. Okay, well, let's get this in the pan. Should probably wait a minute more. Let's get this temperature going. We're just waiting for this to heat up, as I mentioned. And you can use this mixture just all those ways I just talked about with just egg. Scones, muffins, cakes, quiche, omelet that I'm going to show you. Really anywhere you would have used egg in 2 eggs or less capacity. Again, you don't want to do, 3 eggs in a recipe. It's just probably not going to work quite right.
So if you did have something that took more than 2 eggs, would there be anything you could do, or you just avoid those recipes?
I usually look for a vegan one. There are things you can do, but it takes a lot more knowledge, and you have to know why the egg is in the recipe. So it gets a little more complex. And the only thing I know of that I don't think there's a great recipe out yet for is angel food cake, because that uses egg white. And we have a great replacement for egg white, which is called aquafaba. It's basically the bean water from chickpeas. It froths up just like egg white, and we can make meringues and stuff like that. But it doesn't do well in recipes because as it cooks, it doesn't give the leavening that egg white would give. So other than that, I think we really can replace just about anything. I'm just going to put a little bit, maybe a teaspoon of oil on this pan, just because I can't remember how new this pan is and how well seasoned, if it's going to stick at all. So I'm going to put a little oil. It's probably more than I would normally use. And you can see it's up to temperature. So now I'm going to you can hear it sizzling just like an egg would. And I'm just going to put a thin coating all the way around. There we go. And I'll put this over here, get it out of our way. Okay. And the trick with this, I find, is almost treat it like a pancake. So you don't want to mess with it too much. You can, if you want to make a scramble with it, it works fine. And in that case, I would start stirring it around. My husband uses this in a little teeny fry pan that's this big to make egg patties. So he makes those sometimes if we don't have the tofu egg, or just if he's looking for something different. Because, you don't want to get bored. Eat the same things all the time is kind of boring. So you can see it's even bubbling up a lot like a pancake would. And what I do is I wait. Are you on this camera, Glenn? Are you on this one? Great. So I wait until it's pretty solid on top. We want it cooked through. And we don't want to cook real fast because we're actually cooking the mung bean right now. So that mung bean was dried out. It was fresh, then it got dried out. And then the mung bean was spun, it was dried, made wet again, put in the Vitamix to make it almost like a powder, and now it's cooking. So it's a bean, so you want it to cook a little while. So we'll just let that cook, and you can see on the edges, it's already getting cooked through. And I don't think the camera will get this, but I can already tell it's getting brown on the bottom. So it's perfect. It's coming along really nicely. If I wanted to speed up, I don't have my, my burner went off. If I wanted to speed this up, I could put a lid on it, but I think you can tell it's almost done. It's firm over here, and just the middle is still cooking. So that's a good point to put in my toppings. So I'm going to put my onions that I held out, some of those onions. I'm going to put them on half. I'm going to put some of my peppers on half. That one got over there. That's okay. It won't hurt anything. And I mentioned I have these little pieces. It's still cooking, I can tell. These little pieces of potato. And so I'm going to put some of those in there because that just sounded good to me today. Usually I serve a potato on the side. And now I would normally put a lid on it and let it cook through, but I can tell it's just about done anyway. So I'm just going to let it cook a minute or more. Yeah, I can see. So there, and fold it over, and we have our brown omelette-y looking omelet. So it's somewhere between a savory crepe and an omelet. It's definitely not the exact same consistency as an omelet, but it's just as delicious. And I really highly recommend you try this. It's super easy. It makes a very low-fat quiche. If you put it either in a pie plate or a frittata, you could put the potatoes and those vegetables all in an iron fry pan, stick it in the oven for a few minutes, about 350 for probably 20, depending how thick you make it, 20 minutes or so. And you'd have a really good frittata. And it's so much healthier than all the cholesterol that you would get in a hen's egg. And so it's super healthy, very low calorie, whole foods, except for the oil would be the only non-whole food. And if you are eating completely whole foods, then you can just leave out the oil. And everything else I used would be considered a whole food. So that is all done. And we are going to look at our sandwich next. Any questions while I grab our sandwich makings, Kathy?
I'll let you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can ask questions too, Kathy. You usually come up with some.
Yep.
And maybe I'm saying a lot of stuff. Normally I get more questions. So I'm just going to make a quick English muffin sandwich. So I'm always thinking with vegan foods, how am I going to make them a lot like their original counterpart, but a little healthier, but lots of flavor. So in sandwiches, I was just thinking about this morning. I'm like, where did I ever learn to put mayo on egg sandwiches? And I remembered it was my neighbor growing up. We had this old lady. I'm hopefully not insulting anybody. She was, I think, 85 or 90. So for a 10-year-old, that's pretty old. So now I don't think it's so old, but she lived a couple houses down, and she would have us over for breakfast, all the neighborhood kids, me and my friends, a handful of us. And she would put mayo on egg sandwiches, scrambled egg sandwiches. So
Can I interrupt with a couple questions that are related to the mung beans? So one person's asking if MUNG beans are the same as MOONG beans.
Yeah, they're just Americanized probably, so people know how to say it. But yeah, that would be the same thing. I think I put in the directions online what you need. Let me see if I put it here. So dry yellow split mung beans. So I put both spellings online, the MUNG, which is more, I think maybe more the Americanized version. The Indian, where it comes from, it is MOONG dal, DAL, beans.
Okay.
And I thought I have seen, you don't want yellow split pea. That's a different product. Look for the mung. You don't want fresh mung bean. That's like a white sprout. You don't want that. So you saw what they look like. Look for that.
Yeah.
They're like little pebbles.
Great. And another question was, how long will this mung bean mixture last in the refrigerator, or do you cook it? Can you cook the omelets in advance and refrigerate them?
Excellent question. I meant to say, I usually keep it 5 days. That's a really safe rule of thumb for a lot of home cooks. Frankly, it could probably go a lot longer than that, but 5 days is usually my limit just for safety. We're not disinfecting everything in our kitchen, and we don't want maybe a little bacteria to get overwhelming in the refrigerator. So I'd leave it at 5 days. You can also cook it ahead of time, use it in a burrito or taco or whatever you want to do. You can even make little patties and freeze them and then just warm them up in the toaster. You could do something like that too.
And certainly safe with eggs. I mean, you're not going to get salmonella or anything.
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the two things I immediately loved about being vegan. One is I can make all my stuff. I can make milk. I can make soy milk. I can make oat milk. I can make cheese. I can make eggs. That was very empowering to me, that I didn't have to source them another way. I just loved that when I first became vegan, and still love it. And the second thing is, a lot of foodborne illness is less of a concern. I don't have to worry about contaminating my cooking, my cutting boards or things like that with things like salmonella. It doesn't mean you won't get foodborne illness. It's possible. Spinach every once in a while is one of the culprits, but it's so much less common. So, okay, so back to my sandwich. I'm looking to add flavor, so I do add a mayo. I make all sorts of mayo. This isn't even a teaspoon. It's like a half teaspoon. I tend to make all sorts of little aiolis or flavored mayo, and I always put it on both sides because I feel like you get more flavor that way. I don't know if that's true, but I always do both sides. This one is Calabrian chili. I said I like spicy food, and mayo. You could do other chilies and mayo. You can do pesto if you want a green one. You could do roasted garlic if you want a garlicky one. You could put a little truffle oil if you wanted truffle. Lots of different combinations out there. I'm going to grab our tofu patty next out of the oven, so I'll be right back. Here is my egg patty. Hold it up to the camera so you can see it. So it's a little dry on the outside, not dry, but dry to the touch. And it's still bendable, so it's still inside is still a soft, try and see so you can bend it. So it's soft, kind of like an egg would be. Again, I'm trying to simulate eggs. Okay. Cameraman wants to get a better picture. So that's the egg patty. And I usually put some fresh greens on this. Again, those super greens or some spinach would be my normal thing. Sometimes I'll put like a processed cheese, like chow cheese. Sometimes I'll melt that on top. Not a lot because I try to be healthy at home, but sometimes I'll do that. And then some kind of bacon I usually put, or there's lots of sausage patty out there, but I love tempeh bacon. Tempeh is pretty much a whole food. It's a minimally processed. It's soybeans that have been left to ferment and make this case, a strip, which is then put in like with a little maple and a little smoke to make it savory like bacon would be. And then this one is a product called Thrilling Bacon. This is pretty spendy. The tempeh is cheap. You can get it on sale of $3.99 usually. But Thrilling Bacon is delicious. It's a product I first found at the Beaverton Farmers Market. It's a local person makes it. And about a year ago, they got bought by someone, I think either bought out or investors. So now they make it in Las Vegas. So now it's pretty expensive. You can find it at New Seasons in Portland metro area and Market of Choice up in Seattle and Portland metro. And I'm sure lots of other places in the country. So I usually use one of these. This one, not quite as healthy. It's tofu and has coconut oil. It's processed, but it's delicious if you're looking for an indulgence. Or again, tempeh, I can eat this with complete satisfaction and knowing I'm eating something that's really good for me. So I'm going to put the tempeh bacon on, and I bet my cameraman will get that other bacon later, or maybe now if I put it close enough to him. And then again, and he did. I'd put like it's going in his mouth. And I would either put some greens on here, or right now, tomatoes are in season and so delicious that I'd probably put tomatoes on that. And there's my little breakfast sandwich. It's so good, super yummy, real nutritious. I often use the Dave's Killer English muffins, which are I think they are actually whole wheat. They have both a white and a whole wheat. These are a local brand Fran's, so I use that today. Okay, I need to grab a plate and get this omelet off here. It had plenty of time to heat through and cook through, and I need this pan for French toast. So I'm going to move my omelet. I bet that disappears in a little while too. Probably see a little hand reach over and grab it. So we are going to make our French toast next, our final recipe today. And let me just move some stuff out of the way. French toast, there's lots of recipes. You can just use that mixture I made with the chickpea, soak your bread in that, just egg, soak it in that. Lots of recipes on the web. The one I like the most is one I first had in a little restaurant in Portland called Junior's. And it's made from banana, amongst other things. So I really like that one. There's something about the banana that adds a little sweetness. You almost can't tell that there's banana in it. You want a super ripe banana. This is not as ripe as I would like it. I would really like to see some brown spots on it. But unfortunately, my well-ripened one got ate. So this one I'll do. So I'm just popping that in my Vitamix. And this is another one. I got to look at my recipe because I don't make it every day. Oh yeah, some more soy milk. Glenn, would you give me a soy milk? Oh, this is another thing I love out of the pantry. The blue one, if you could. This is another thing I love about milk is it's in shelf-stable cartons. So I always have extra soy milk in my pantry. Okay, now I remember this one. He's going to grab that milk. While he does that, I am going to grab some flaxseed. If you don't have one of the egg replacers I've mentioned, couple other things you can use in most recipes. One is flaxseed. This is ground. You can buy it ground. I buy it whole, and I just spin it in the Vitamix to grind it, and I leave it in the refrigerator because once it's ground, it loses both flavor and nutrition. So you want to leave it in the fridge. I'm just going to pop that in there. And I'm going to put a little bit of, I used pumpkin pie spice. You could use cinnamon. It's just someone on the phone right now on our call showed me pumpkin pie things in the grocery store. So of course now I feel like pumpkin pie stuff, even though it's the middle of summer. So I put a little pumpkin pie spice in there. The next ingredient's a little vanilla extract. So I'll pop that in there. And I often put a little nutritional yeast in this recipe. It doesn't need it, but I just sometimes like, oops, this was open. Is this in oh, you opened it. Thank you. Just making sure it wasn't open in the pantry. And so what was I saying? I forgot what, I got distracted by the milk making a mess.
The nutritional yeast?
Oh, yeah. Usually when I'm making something sweet, like a custard, what else do I make? Or even a white sauce, I add nutritional yeast. It adds again, a umami that kind of simulates cow milk. So I usually add a little. I didn't have it in this recipe, just don't do it that way, but I could. I'm putting 3/4 cup of soy milk. And that's it. Boy, I'm messy today. So I'm going to start my pan again. Oh, let me wipe that off. I'll be right back. Just wiping out my pan. Hopefully it won't stick too much. Normally I would wash that, but working here. Okay, again, a medium flame or medium burner. And I am going to start up my Vitamix. So again, I'll just stop talking while it's running because it's so noisy and annoying. So, but they do work really well. So I probably blended that a little longer than I would normally have to because it wasn't a super ripe banana. I like the more ripe banana because it's sweeter, but it works fine with this too. Now to dip my bread, I'm just using a little cake pan here. You could use a pie plate or even just a bowl that holds your bread. That's all you're looking for. I'll just put all of it in there. I won't need all of it, but I'm just going to put all of it in because it's easy. Okay. Now the bread you use for this, you want a bread that's pretty sturdy. If I use something like Wonder Bread, it's just like making regular French toast, right? If you use Wonder Bread, it'll work, but there's a good chance you're going to tear it. So I like a pretty sturdy bread. This is something I picked up at some store locally. It's a cranberry pecan whole grain bread. So I'm just going to pop that in there and let it sit for a second on each side. And I'm putting a little oil in my pan and a little on this side. Should have had a fork to do this. Now that bread was a little dried out because it's been sitting on my counter here while we've been talking. I am going to grab a fork. I have spoons, but no fork. So I'm going to take this out. And you can see it's fairly, it's not bending even with all that liquid on it now. And I'm just going to put that in my pan. And you want to hear the sizzle. I don't know if my mic picked it up because this mic's very good at isolating sound. but you want some sizzle when it goes in the pan. Again, color is flavor. You want some browning to happen. So I'm going to put my other piece in here. I'm just letting a little of the batter come off the pan, off the bread. And there we go. I'm getting a lot of sizzle there. I'm going to bring my heat down just a little bit. Okay. And you really don't want to muck with it like I just did. You really just want to let it cook. And again, that'll get color and it'll also firm up. So when you turn it, you won't get a lot left behind sticking on the pan. You might get a little, but that I used to find with regular French toast with egg, you would get that sometimes. So we're just going to let that cook a few minutes here. And I can tell this one is, I might have had my pan a little too hot. So this one, always, you know, when you do pancakes or French toast, the first ones are always not your best. I'm getting a little of that, I think. And my pan was a little hot. So I'm going to flip these earlier than I normally would because it got a little browner than I wanted. And this other side should be fine. Oops, nope, that one you can see that. A little brown. Best laid plan. Here we go. I'm going to have to cook that one a little on the other side. My pan got a little hotter than it should have. And while those cook, I'm going to go grab some nectarines and some whipped cream that I'm going to use to plate these. So I'll be right back. So we're using this center burner for the camera. It's a little better view for you there, but it is a little hotter than the burner I would normally use, which is up here. So that's why I'm overcooking a little today. You do want to cook it long enough on both sides so the middle gets cooked through. Again, just like, which camera am I on? This one? Just like you would normally for, you know, egg-based French toast. So let me see if I can flip this. Yeah, now that I'm going to leave this just a minute more on each side. And I love maple syrup on any of my cooked foods, like pancakes or French toast. And as I mentioned, I have some nectarines here that I'll use and some whipped cream. Okay, this looks better this time. Yeah, it's sticking a little. This pan might not have, I might not put the right amount of oil, but there you go. That's more of the golden brown I wanted on this one. And I'm going to let that cook. Again, a lower temperature because you do want to cook it through. You want that inside. Oh, you can see I messed up my pretty golden batter there. But these things happen. And we're going to have beautiful nectarines and whipped cream to cover it. So I'm not too worried about it. Yeah, so I'm just making sure I cook it all the way through. Any questions about baking or vegan eggs, anything out there that I can address? Because we're just about done. We might finish a bit early today. Boy, Kathy, usually we finish way late.
You're doing a great job. It's all really clear. What about the whipped cream? Is that something you made yourself?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Boy, you're an excellent prompter. I whipped this morning. This happens to be Country Crock whipped cream. Trader Joe's has a very similar product. We did a taste test with the neighbors, none of which are vegan. They're all either vegetarian or just omnivores. And we all picked the Country Crock brand as being our favorite. So it works just like normal whipped cream, you know, heavy cream or whipping cream. You whip it with a little bit of sugar, you know, it's a powdered sugar, and a little vanilla or whatever flavoring you want to add. I make ones that have like chocolate flavor. I've made coffee flavor, lots of different flavors out there, and they all taste really delicious. So you'll see, let me grab a spoon. It holds really well and has very similar texture to regular dairy whipping cream. It tastes super similar. Like I said, even my neighbors who aren't vegan eat it, love it. They often say they didn't know it was vegan, although if it's coming from me, they know it's vegan. Okay, I'm going to flip these once more. Usually I have my timing a little better on them. These are, again, a tad dark because I'm using the wrong burner on my stove. And we'll get these plated up there in a moment. I can hear they're still cooking because I hear a little like boiling sound or sizzling sound. So I'm just going to let those cook for a minute more and they will be ready to go. And I can push on them and I see that, no liquid's coming out. I can tell from the firmness of it that it's cooked through pretty well now. So I will plate these. And it has like a nice texture. Like I remember French toast with eggs having texture to it, like a toasty outside. So it has that little layer on the outside that I really like. Gives a little more texture when you're biting into it. And we'll put some fruit. The stone fruits are coming into season. So how much does my cameraman want? That's a good amount. He's also my eater after all these things. And some whipped cream. Oops, I forgot. More importantly, maple syrup. And I only use real maple syrup. I'm from New England originally, and I love real maple syrup. A little of our whipped cream there. And there we have it.
Yum.
We have our French toast.
Yummy.
Yes. So we have a feast. We have food for the week. We have food for lunch, and we have food for dinner, probably. And, that's the other really cool part of everything I made. Tofu you can get as cheap as $2 a package. Sauté at the factory might be $3.50. It could have gone up. I haven't been for a few months. So I've been buying at the local H Mart has it. And I think I pay $3.75 there, something like that. So tofu is very inexpensive. That batter I made for the omelet, the whole thing probably cost me less than $1 to make. It's really reasonably priced. The egg sandwich, again, super cheap. If I use the expensive bacon, not so cheap, probably $1 a piece. Maybe, no, it's more. It's almost $2 a piece. It's kind of crazy expensive. But tempeh is low cost. That was, probably 25 cents of tempeh, something like that. Tofu, practically nothing, maybe 50 cents. English muffin, you're less than McDonald's old price. I haven't been to McDonald's in 100 years, but really inexpensive. Same with this, a banana. I actually ran in Whole Foods because I was looking for a real ripe banana yesterday, and I only spent 29 cents for that banana. Soy milk, $3 a carton. I used less than a quarter of a carton. So that's another, 75 cents or so. And this would make probably 8 or more slices. So we're talking, the most expensive thing on here is probably that nectarine. So very inexpensive, great frugal, and without the whipped cream, fairly healthy food. Whipped cream's an indulgence. We don't do it all the time, but hey, you have to have an indulgence every once in a while. So, and a little healthier version would be to do aquafaba and put that on. Since aquafaba, you can use it. You just drain a can of chickpea, put it into you probably need a KitchenAid. It takes a long time to whip aquafaba with a hand beater or, whatever the hand
Immersion.
Yeah. But if you put it in a KitchenAid, it takes 6 or 7 minutes and it'll be as fluffy as egg whites. You can put that on something like this and it's super healthy. Maybe a little either natural sugar like maple syrup in it, or a little, teaspoon or two of sugar. And you can even torch it like a marshmallow.
Wow.
You can use it in frostings, all sorts of fun stuff. On top of lemon meringue pie, there's just a zillion ways to use it. So maybe we'll have to do that sometime in the future and talk more about aquafaba.
Yeah. So you were talking about the mayonnaise. Was that a commercial brand or did you make that yourself?
No, I did use commercial today. My favorite is Vegan-A's. It has got super expensive though. We don't use a lot, so I still indulge in it. But you can get Best, which is Hellman's on the East Coast, Best on the West Coast. Has a vegan one that they have at Target, and the big, huge one is maybe $4. So it's not very expensive. And then the other one that I really like is Just. Same company as the eggs, makes a mayo, and they make a ranch dressing that's really good. It's also pretty spendy though, so I tend not to buy it. I'll usually either make my own or Best if I'm making a big recipe of something.
I guess Tom was actually asking about how to make vegan mayo. I think you actually did that in one of your previous demos.
I think I did. It's really just oil and then something that emulsifies oil. So like oil and aquafaba is usually what I would do, and a little acid. So either a little vinegar or a little lemon. I think we have the recipe up from the past.
I think we do.
I made a different one. No, I made the one I made for that demo. I do that. So I do the oil one. If I want to be healthier, I make one from silken tofu. So silken tofu usually comes in like the packaging, like the milk, the aseptic cartons on shelf stable. It used to be made, or I think it still is, made right here in Tualatin, the Nori Sue brand. And I live in Tualatin. It's south of Portland, Oregon. And it's made here locally. And you want silken on the carton. The tofu I used today was traditional. Silken is a very silky consistency. It's great for pudding. Like you can make chocolate pudding with just tofu and chocolate for a nice healthy pudding. Or if you want a healthy alternative to mayo, which is not healthy, any way you make it, you can use silken tofu and then add a little lemon, a little nutritional yeast, and a little of that black salt. And it makes a really nice eggy spread. So it's really delicious as well. And I know that recipe is up on your website somewhere, Kathy. If you leave past years up?
Yes, they are. So they could just look up your previous.
Yeah, and I think the tofu originally, I think it was Mark Bittman, who is a famous New York Times writer. It's probably on New York Times Cooking. Mine's probably a little different, but they're all the same. Just Google tofu mayo and you'll find it.
Sounds great. Well, you've explained everything so well. I think everybody's is good on all this. So
good.
This has been really wonderful.
If you have any questions that come up later, you know where to find Kathy, and she knows where to find me.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, thank you so much, Kris. This was wonderful. I really enjoyed it. So we'll say goodbye.